13,000 or
Yeah.
13 million.
And Griffin has called? Yeah, Griffin's called. He's in position. He has a hand that claps very well. Samir will be folding the 5-2. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So we may ask for a count.
Yeah. Now Michal finds himself in a horrible spot. The pot's 1.6 million. He's only got 3 million behind. Even on a flop like this, he doesn't know where he should be.
It's horrible, isn't it?
What does he? Has he moved all in? Oh, he's moved all in. Oh, that's yeah. Griffin snap calls. Yeah, Michal just was hoping that Griffin didn't have a hand that could call, but again, I don't like the shove because he's not folding up better hands. He does have some outs. He can obviously hit a 6. He can also hit some runners, like 9-7, 7-4. But yeah, he's big risk. Oh, he's got a 9, so now he does have the 7.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a 7 or a 6 saves him now. So Griffin suddenly finds himself with a sweat, having been miles ahead on the flop. And Mike is praying to see a 7 or a 6 on the river and save his tournament. And he's hit the 7! Oh my goodness. He's hit the runner straight. Oh. And Griffin can't believe it. Griffin was so far ahead on the flop there. Played his hand so deceptively. The wrong move at the right time, I guess. And Samir is now giving the rub down, saying the open is so terrible he should have just shoved pre-flop. Which I agree with. Maybe nobody at the table wants to hear that right now.
Well, we were talking about, maybe some guys at the table were quite happy. Would have been quite happy to see Griffin win that pot. But on the plus side for the haters, maybe they might see a little chink of light there, and that Griffin may have lost control of this tournament. That it looks like he's had all day.
Yeah, they would have. Obviously, they would have all have laddered the spot there if Griffin had held. But on the other hand, Griffin's chances now have taken a significant dent. So everybody else's chance of actually winning the tournament have gone up significantly.
They haven't laddered, but their equity's probably gone up.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll only find out later what they really wanted.
Yeah.
As will they.
Yeah. So you do need luck in poker. Michal needed to get really lucky there, but he did.
He sure did. I think the 6s had to be an open shove, really.
Yeah, I think that was the way to play that hand, but it worked out for him. Anthony is on.
It worked out spectacularly.
Yeah.
Maybe just enough chips that Griffin didn't want to stick them all in.
Yeah.
Come on.
Give him 3 million.
7 in the end. I was hoping for 6.
He was hoping for 6. He's complaining about the fact he didn't get a 6.
Must be the destiny. I had the royal flush, I gave him straight flush.
He's telling bad beats again.
Hoping for the 6. One of the darker arts in poker is to try and annoy your opponents, and maybe
Michal seems to be very good at that.
maybe get them what we call tilted, which means that they maybe start acting illogically and angrily for at least a small period of time. But it doesn't always work. But Mikel seems to be quite capable of exploring every avenue.
Yeah.
Chris must be feeling an awful lot better now. At least he's not winding him up.
Yeah. So suddenly Michal finds himself up to second in chips with 7.8 million.
It's a bit of a performance from the mess he was in earlier.
Yeah, having been the shortest at several points in this final table. Anthony opened the last hand with Queen 9 suited on the button. He'll be opening pocket 9s here.
He's now got to stack up, and he's become the most disliked player at the table. I mean, I'm talking about from the other players.
Yeah. So Anthony has a very comfortable chip lead, and I think it's fair to say that Anthony would prefer to see Michal in second place rather than
that's just what we were saying. That the tournament opened wide up when that 7 got hit.
Yeah. So that had the potential to get messy. Oh, I think Chris could be getting all in here. Yeah, Chris has just under 15 big blinds. Yeah, Chris this is a super standard shot from Chris, and now he has to hope to win the flip.
2.5, 2.6.
Anthony hasn't called yet, but I think he will call once he realizes it's only 15 big blinds or 16 big blinds.
Well, if he realises that Chris isn't the luckiest guy in these spots in the big tournament, he'd be in already.
Yeah. Yeah,
again-
Anthony's not loving this because he knows that he's not that he's going to be flipping quite a lot, but I do think he will call eventually.
Three raise 2.5 bigs. Yes.
Yeah, just over 2 bigs. He raised a 5-10.
I suppose maybe the reason Anthony is taking his time about this is that he might feel that he's got this tournament under control now.
That's
That he's-
that's
that he-
another
that he's
factor.
just
Yeah,
he's just taken over from.
Yeah. He doesn't necessarily want to flip now, and with the nines, he's going to think like a flip is kind of the best case scenario.
Yeah.
He's not going to imagine that Chris is going to be shoving too many worse pairs.
You know, he's just kind of got sort of one hand on the trophy.
Whereas if he calls and loses here, he gets dragged back to 8 million.
Well, one hand on the trophy is a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's,
Chris is passive. I think Chris is going to feel that he definitely has the best hand now because Anthony hasn't called. He might be quite surprised if he gets called to see how strong Anthony is.
well, he's probably thinking Anthony's got ace jack or ace 10 or something here. He's certainly got something.
Yeah. So Anthony's running the maths in his head now. He has to call 3.2 million into a pot that would be 7.8 million if he does call. So he needs to win about 40% of the time. So he's asking himself, you know, if he's up against tens or jacks, he's in terrible shape. If he's up against king queen, he's obviously got the right price, or ace queen or ace king or any of those hands. So he has to ask himself, how often does Chris have a bigger pair here? How often does he just have 2 overcards? And does he ever have smaller pairs or something like ace 8 suited?
And when he's finished with that, he can move on to the what happens if I win and what happens if I
Yeah.
lose. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a very, very tough
Yeah.
decision.
This is a really close spot. Anthony has found so many of these today. Really marginal decisions. And he's not hiding the fact that he's tortured over this decision. And he's also
Yeah,
certainly
like
not Hollywoodding.
some of the players might think that he's Hollywood and,
Yeah.
and hogging TV time, but he's every time he's done this, he's actually had a tough one.
Yeah, I think this is on the line. I think if Anthony had 8s, he would fold here pretty quickly. And if he had 10s, he would call pretty quickly. He feels that 9s is right on the line. And it's a huge pot. I mean, it's going to be almost 8 million. Yeah, he has made the call. I'm not surprised. I did feel he would eventually make the call, and I think it is the correct call. But he's not going to be happy about the fact that he's basically in a 50-50 now for 8 million in chips when he had this tournament under control. And now it's basically in the lap of the gods. Chris, on the other hand, his tournament is now at risk. And they both sit and wait for the dealer to
Take their
reveal
time.
their fate. Yeah. They're getting slow rolled by the dealer. And Chris hits the king. So Chris pulls comfortably ahead now. Anthony needs one of the 2 remaining 9s. He doesn't have any runners. He just needs he can just hit a 9 now. And now he's down to the river. Hope he'd hit a 9. And this will be a big momentum shifter too if Chris can hold here.
Yeah.
Because Chris will actually pull right back into the mix. And Chris wins a vital flip. I think we're now going to have 3 stacks approximately the same. I think Chris, Mihail and Anthony are all in the 7 to 8 million region.
Lucky for Anthony, he actually got that one right after.
Yeah, he did get it right. As you said, there was an argument for folding as well, just to avoid
Yeah.
the flip and avoid the situation.
But that's a little bit more old school.
Yeah, well, like I say, I think he would have called 10s pretty quickly, and he would have folded 8s, and he felt that 9s was right on the line. He must have.
Yeah, but I think you're very, very close to it there.
So, again, the short stacks. Well, I guess the only really short stack now is Samir. So Samir was probably not rooting for Chris in that pot.
But probably not.
What are you playing?
It's going to be a very popular pot win in the room.
Yeah.
Because
Will be.
Chris
Yeah,
is
so-
a hugely popular player around the circuit, and,
Yeah.
and rightly so.
Yeah, I think Chris would be the most popular winner on this final table with the home crowd. He now finds himself in a great spot that he's basically kind of joint chip leader with 2 of the other guys, and they have a bit more than Griffin.
And it's a fantastic lesson for anybody who's learning the game. That Chris showed fantastic patience. I mean, for a guy who's naturally aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed tremendous discipline, and he's been rewarded.
Yep.
By,
His patience and discipline have been rewarded. We saw him fold hands that Chris would not have folded a few years ago. King Queen off, Jack 10 suited in early position. He's been rewarded now. He's right back in this tournament.
and the difference is he knows how to use the chips to bully the guys
Yeah,
now.
we're going to see a very different Chris now.
Yeah, there's implied odds in the whole thing for sure.
Yeah. So Vamshi has raised the button with King 2. Vamshi's now got a shallow stack of only 12 big blinds. Maybe that's after that. Mihal should just shove here now, but I think he's probably going to call. Yeah, he just call.
You'd have shoved there, would you?
I would have.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
sorry,
it-
sorry.
I think it might be the same.
I was just wondering if I was missing something.
I think it might be the same result. Yeah, Mihal has shoved. Vamshi is called really quickly. Vamshi's going to be surprised to find himself behind here.
I have 3.7 in the hand.
And he basically needs a 2 now. Samir is not even trying to hide the fact that he's quite happy about this outcome. Samir's about to ladder.
A
Unless,
little unlucky there for Vamshi.
incredibly unlucky because when
He's not supposed to see this flop.
no, he's not supposed to. Yeah, there's only two
Against
kings
most
left
players
in
in this tournament,
Yeah.
there wouldn't have been a flop.
Yeah.
And then when there is a flop, he has to go and hit king.
Yeah.
He's doubly unlucky.
So now he's actually lost the deuce, so he can only chop. Is that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he can only chop.
Oh, fuck.
And he's done it. He's got the chop. Samir is the most tilted man in the room.
He wasn't even in the flop.
They might both be from India, but Samir was definitely rooting for the man from Moldova in that pot. Samir can't believe his bad luck there.
Well, the guys that the man from Moldova has been winding up in the last hour or
Yeah,
so.
suddenly had a new friend.
Oh my God, it's all happening here.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to promise anybody that's watching this that this isn't fixed. I mean, it's a.
Yeah. Vamshi can't believe his luck. He got it in so far behind there on the flop. He was actually dead on the turn. He couldn't win the pot anymore,
thought
but
that
he
was
could
it.
chop it. And he managed to do it. And Samir's now seeing the funny side, but he's by far the shortest stack now.
Yeah, that's.
So
The
that,
probability is that's going to cost him a few quid. But
Yeah. 84% of the time there, Mike was holding on the river and Samir was laddering. But Samir will stay focused and disciplined. He won't do anything rash.
Well, I suppose all he's got to do is think about what mess Chris was in now.
Yeah.
And,
It can swing so fast. Chris will be opening this hand.
just a question of how much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Mikhail's there with a big stack, so we won't be.
Yeah.
Just I'll stick you all in, guys.
He's also coming into Griffin. I don't know what Griffin's stack is now, but Griffin might not have much more than 20 big blinds. So Griffin might have the kind of stack that he would shove all in over a raise a lot of the time. So Chris has to think about what sizing he wants to go with here.
And he's doing it right. He's thinking it out, all the scenarios. And if I raise and then Griffin shoves, what am I going to do?
Yeah, he raised to 600k, 2.5x. I think he wanted to make it more expensive. Prohibitive. Yeah, he also didn't want Griffin just to call there, so he made it more expensive.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a lesson there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That it could be a good idea, don't waste time, but when there is something to be thought about, take your time
Yeah.
and figure out what happens if.
Rather than having a standard bet size there, you do have to adjust to the situation.
And try not to be surprised. But oh God, I never thought of that.
Samir has king 3 under the gun here. Although he's the shortest, he's still not super short. He has
Well, he can go through the blinds here.
yeah,
fairly
he has
comfortably.
11. He has more than 11 big blinds, so there's no need to get rash with king 3. Chris folds 5 high. Mihal folds. Yeah,
Even going down to 7-8 big blinds here, it wouldn't take too much to get you back up again.
No.
But at these,
well, one double up in your, and particularly who you double up to, you might drag them back as well. So Mihal folded 10-9 on the gun there. Oh, sorry, on the button, which I think a lot of players would have opened in that seat.
2.5.
Yeah, Griffin's now asking Samir for a count because Griffin is the second shortest stack, I think. So that affects
which
his
is
decisions.
something that we didn't expect to see.
And he also needs to know Samir's stack because Samir is going to be in the big blind and Griffin will be the button. It's not going to get folded out to the button though. Vamshi has 14.5 big blinds. He could go one of two ways. Either he can raise and hope somebody shoves on him and he calls, or he can shove himself. He's gone for the raise. And pretty sure Michal would be folding Jack 4 suited.
Eventually.
Yeah. Oh, a card was one of Chris's cards got exposed. Griffin folds. Anthony has ace-6, but he's in the small blind and he's facing under the gun open, so he doesn't fancy defending there.
Just proving our point that he has had a few hands to think about and has taken some time over them, but he's certainly not a time waster.
No. Samir thankfully has a really bad hand in the big blind, so he could have gotten into trouble here if he picked up even something like Jack 10, given how active Vamshi has been under the gun. But he's just going to stay disciplined and make the fold that he should make.
He's still looking pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool customer, Samir.
How much have you got of him?
I don't want to rain on his parade by saying how much. It's a small but significant amount, let's say.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Small but significant. So you're going to say it depends on how he does.
Yeah.
What? 2? Yeah. Oh wow. Full time I thought I had.
So
For
Samir's now going to be the small blind. If it gets folded around to him, he'll be shoving very wide. I think Chris might open King Jack now, given how much chips he has.
Yeah, I think that times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed. We saw him folding King Queen in these spots before, but he had a much shorter stack.
There was also one or two more players at the table.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Chris is going to keep the pressure up here and open.
And he does still have the license that
yeah. I don't think
from having been forced to play so tight earlier.
Yeah. Samir looks like he might be thinking. Yeah, Samir's getting these tricky spots where he could go for a light shove, but he's finding the right fold. Vamshi is defending with an 8 in his hand. That's all we know at the moment.
An 8 and a green card.
Yeah. It could be ace-8, and it could also be 8-7. So this is an interesting flop.
8-9.
Chris can go one of two ways here. He can either think, okay, I have showdown with King High, or he can try and bet and maybe put pressure on weak 1 pair hands. He has the King of Spades as well, so a spade on the turn would give him a flush draw.
Oh, it could be 8-7.
Yeah, we still don't. And obviously 8-9 is possible as well. So almost any hand that Vamshi would play with an 8 in it has. Now Chris has picked up a flush draw on the turn, so Chris will probably barrel again.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, he's now going to try and get a 7 or a 6 to fold, I think, by betting again.
And the ace is certainly very, very plausible.
Yeah. Now Chris has decided to check behind. That's, I think, because he has showdown with the King High. If Chris had something like Jack 10 of spades, he'd have a bigger incentive to bet. But with King High, he's going to be winning some of the time.
I think you can only beat 8-9 at this stage.
Seems that way, yeah. The river's interesting too because it's a 6. Now Chris shouldn't have too many 6s in his range. Vamshi can have more 6s. So if Chris bets this now, it's not particularly believable. Yeah, Chris has checked because basically he can't.
He does have showdown.
He has showdown. It would be very hard to get Vamshi to fold a better hand. Wow, it must have been 8-9, was it?
I'd say so.
Yeah, it had to be 8-9. Yeah, which Vamshi could have turned into a bluff on the river, I guess. With 9 high, he has no showdown, and if he bets, I'm pretty sure he gets Chris to fold King High.
I suppose it would have been difficult for him to do with the ace out there.
Yeah.
But Chris had checked the turn. But
Chris had checked the turn, but he would do that sometimes with aces just for pot control and deception. Yeah. But yeah, I think I still would have liked to see a bet from Vamshi on the river because Vamshi the 6 is more likely to help Vamshi than Chris.
And he might have already got there with the spade.
Yeah. So we see that actually drags Vamshi back now towards Samir, and Griffin is the third shortest stack now. They're all between 9 and 15 big blinds. The 3 chip leaders all have 30 big blinds or more. So again, we basically have 2 tournaments within a single tournament now. We have the top 3 guys, and then we have the bottom 3 all hoping to ladder.
Yeah, I suppose but the big change is that the personnel has changed.
The personnel has changed.
tournaments
Both
within
Chris and
tournaments.
Michal now find themselves in the upper bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Griffin finds himself having to readjust. And having completely bossed this final table early on, now has to play disciplined sub-20 big blind poker.
Samir might feel that.
Samir might feel this is,
He's
this
got
is,
shoved.
this is strong enough to shove, yeah.
I mean, the old days, Jimmy Langan used to say if it adds up to
Yeah.
17 or more, you're
Yeah, Samir's shove. This is
Just stick it in.
this is a correct shove. I don't think Chris is
yeah. It would have been a mistake not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might like it, but
No, you don't like it, and I think I saw Samir's hands were visibly shaking there as he announced all in. So
which is fine if you're playing online.
yeah, that's right. yeah. As I said, Samir is a very, very experienced online player, but doesn't play that much live. So this is a very different situation. Online, he would just look at the screen and go, "Yeah, 10-9, that's a shove," and look at some other
Cup
table.
of tea, love.
Yeah, exactly. Look back and hope I won. But it's a very different situation on the final table of the Irish Open. But he knew. But the great thing was he knew that he had to fold 10-9, or sorry, to shove 10-9, and he didn't bottle it. Anthony's probably going to play 8-7 suited, I imagine. It looks so
For
pretty.
how much? It's,
Yeah,
for that much.
that much.
About 520 or 525. Is it?
That looks on the money, yeah. 5. Spot on.
11 years later.
And Samir folds a really bad ace. Michal has shown a tendency to defend these hands, so I think he might call here. And a flop with a lot of shovels on it could get interesting.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
This is very bad news for Anthony.
Michal check quickly. Anthony will almost certainly bet this flop now because he has a flush draw.
Do you think Michal is check raising here?
I think
will
the way
he take
Michal
them up?
plays, he's more likely to check call. And if he does check call and we see a nothing like the 8 of hearts, well, no, yeah, I guess the 8 of hearts would be nothing, but if we got like the 3 of hearts in the turn, it'd be interesting to see. Anthony will probably double barrel.
Unfortunately, he may have to treble barrel to win this pot.
Yeah, I think he will, but he has a perfect hand to do it with because the reason he bets the flop is he has a good draw. The reason he'll bet the turn if he still, if he gets checked to is he still has a good draw. And the reason why he would bet the river is
Because he's
he
got
doesn't-
nothing.
He's got nothing. Yeah, it's the only way he can win it.
Oh God.
Now this is a card which could get Anthony into trouble because the king is a card he's supposed to have more often. So I'm pretty sure he's going to bet again. And Michal won't be folding.
Oh God.
This looks like quite a big bet.
Interesting to see what Michal does here. Just
Yeah,
Does he move in now?
well, I guess it's only half the pot. Yeah, he's bet half the pot, but the pot's now getting sizable. Michal's not loving this now because he does have king really bad kicker, but he also has a flush draw, so there's no way he can fold his hand. But he's not enjoying the fact that he's in this spot now. And Anthony's strongly rooting for the fold here, but he knows now he's not getting it.
but he's not getting that.
No. So we have almost
now he's strongly rooting for a spade.
Yeah.
Which would not be a great idea.
and now this.
Oh, there could be a life for Anthony here.
Yeah. If he shoves here, Michal's gonna have a horrible spot.
That might be one of the only cards in the deck that gives him a chance here.
Yeah. Anthony now has to decide whether he can muster up his courage and put all of his chips into the middle with 8 high.
But if he does, actually, fancy he's getting through.
I would say against most players it gets through. I'm not convinced he's getting through against Michal, having played quite a bit against Michal. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think most players would now fold because
Oh,
you're really beating nothing.
Hold on.
I don't think he's shoving
he's
all
got
in. He's gonna go. He's gonna make it look
two
like a
and a
value
quarter,
bet.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a good chance this is getting called. I suspect. Michal does tend to be a bit of a non-believer. And because it's not all of his chips, he can. I think that makes it more likely he'll call because he knows his tournament's not on the line.
2 million.
But it's still a horrible spot now because he's only beating a bluff and Anthony has so many aces. This is a really crucial spot now. This is a 6.6 million pot. One of these guys is going to be pulled back into the mix, and the other guy is going to be massive chip leader. Huge spot now. Can Michal find the call here? He knows he's only beating a bluff. It's actually very bad that he has 2 spades here, because even though we know that Anthony also has 2 spades, most of Anthony's bluffs are missed flush draws.
They're of course less likely.
Yeah, because he has the king and the 6 of those suit. Anthony's remaining very composed here.
Isn't he just?
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a fella that has to be hiding halfway down his jumper.
No. Michal is agonizing on this decision. He really knows he's only beating a bluff.
I can imagine the other players would.
He's made a call, yeah. I did think he would make the call. I have played quite a lot against Michal, and he does make these really light river calls. I think if I'd been in Anthony's spot and I knew of Michal, I would have shoved the river. I think that's the only way you get him to fold. But Anthony felt that he could make
nice one, Derek.
Yeah.
Well, just from all the body language there, I'd imagine you were 100% right.
Yeah. He's super relieved. He didn't expect to win that hand when he made the call, but he still made the call.
I was very, very close to fold.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah, that's going to make Anthony feel better to hear that.
So good. He
Yeah.
played good.
I mean,
Wow.
I'm not sure about the poker player, but when it comes to the wind-ups, this guy's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's putting on a
There's something
masterclass.
give up on
Yeah.
him.
I mean,
I
anybody
got
at home.
something from you on the,
You can see from Anthony's face, he cannot believe he got called by King 6 there.
Every day's a school day. Every day's a school day.
Yeah. That's a huge moment now. Now Michal is the overwhelming chip leader. Anthony suddenly finds himself pulled back into the second pile.
You know, and if there's one guy here that's enjoying this, it's Chris Dowling.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean-
Chris would love to get heads up against Mike.
Yeah, and I don't think he'd worry if he was at a 3-1 chip advantage. I mean,
Yeah.
which obviously it wouldn't help, but
Michal's up to 12 million, you can see now.
but he may have seen maybe the 2 biggest
That's just moved.
contenders for it.
Fold.
That just moved all in. And has Michal? No, he folded. Yeah, he thought about calling with Jack 8. Yeah.
You know, I think I've seen practically every card of practically every final table of the Irish Open in the last 10 or 12 years, but I haven't seen sort of 2 guys. I mean, who would look like we're heading for a heads up.
Yeah.
Been brought down to earth.
Yeah.
So quickly.
Yeah. Both Griffin and Anthony now find themselves.
I'm sure somebody's going to say, "Well, what about?" But I mean, this is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, this is like it's scripted, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is, yeah, no. That was such a huge moment in the tournament because now Michal suddenly is a massive chip leader, and Anthony, who's played as Stormer so far, and to be honest, he made the right move there. I mean, he generally that river bet would work, but on this occasion it didn't.
It would have worked against me.
Yeah. I think it might have worked against every other player in the room actually, but
The ace would have seen.
but
it,
I did
didn't
say when I saw the
Oh
size
yeah,
of the river bet.
you got it perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
This is all in, or forget about it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I was playing with Gavin Smith, and what do you call that South American Spanish guy that won the World Series in 2000 or whatever?
Oh,
Really aggressive player.
Carlos
Carlos
Martins.
Carlos
Yeah.
Mortensen. We were playing some tournament at the World Series, and there was all sorts of banging going on. I think it was day 2 or something. And man turned around to Carlos at one stage, and he says, "You're just like me, Carlos." He said, "You might often go to bed broke, but you never go to bed curious."
Yeah.
I mean, it
I think that's
was fantastic.
That's definitely true of Michal. I'm not sure he's ever gone to bed curious.
Yeah, but it was so true. Gavin Smith. It was excellent.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one.
She's moved all in. Yeah, this is a good shove. His hand isn't strong enough to raise call, and he doesn't want to raise fold, so he just shoves all in.
Stuck with chips over here. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get that.
Griffin and Anthony now find themselves in absolute hell, having less than 15 big blinds each, having been the commanding chip leaders at the start.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a bookmaker around, he could have given you some price on this about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like anybody's been throwing chips away. I mean, this is the final table of the Irish Open.
Yeah.
Fairy tales are coming true. Interesting to see where Griffin's cut-off point comes here.
Yeah, well, Griffin has readjusted to the new situation, and he hasn't.
Oh, very,
he
very
hasn't
quick.
taken his chips in.
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. He's just accepted that it is what it is. He can still win this tournament, but he basically has to knuckle down now. You can see there from the chip count, Samir is the short stack, but both Anthony and Griffin, who were 1 and 2 in chips for so long, are now actually second and third from the bottom. Vamshi has a bit more than them, and then Chris and Mihail are miles clear of the rest. So we've seen the flags have changed around a bit now. We've got 2 Irish flags on the top.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that. Which is good. But I mean, it is great to see 3 English flags on the board there, because I mean, there's been a long tradition since the mid '80s of the English coming over here, and there's always been a big camaraderie that's gone through to your generation and the generation after between the Irish and the English
Yeah,
on the road.
absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, which is something that sort of the Americans can never understand. You know, like
Then
you
we're
guys
supposed
are
to hate
supposed
each
to hate each other,
Yeah.
and then there's some guy in railing.
Yeah.
There's an Irish guy, a few Irish guys are in railing an English guy, or vice versa.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Like when the Irish are over in Vegas, it's generally the English that we'll hang around with the most of the other nationalities. Myself and David Lappin recently relaunched a podcast, and most of the friends that we would invite on would be English. You know, there's always
Yeah,
really
well,
close.
it's
close
great.
to-
It's
yeah.
great that this has carried on for like 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a lot of the English back here. I mean, the 2 boatmans were back who
Yeah.
were stalwarts of the event. Johnny Duddy was here. And
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
loads of others. So,
Yeah, I think the English always enjoy playing in Ireland, and they just enjoy the atmosphere and the banter.
of course they do. I mean, the Irish and the English have always had more in common than they've had in differences.
Yeah. I think we might be seeing Samir moving all in here. Chris has opened, but Chris significantly has opened under the gun, so Samir gives him a bit. more
Yeah, I'd
respect
imagine
because of
that you're right. I think that was the decider there, wasn't it?
So both Chris and Mihail are in a great spot now, because the other guys are all looking at each other, thinking there's a big difference between 6th and 3rd place, and
Except maybe for Griffin, who's
yeah, well Griffin
thinking,
Griffin
this
will
isn't going
play.
to change my life, but I might win the Irish Open.
Yeah, but I think Griffin, through years of training online, Griffin is just going to play the optimal way to play from this position.
His demeanour hasn't changed at all from being
No.
sort of totally on top to being
Yeah.
in a little spot of bother. Seems like a very cool character.
Anthony's also having to readjust. I'm pretty sure Samir's moving all in here. He's been folded on the button. Yeah. Oh, and he's getting called. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
God.
He's gotten snap called. Yeah. And Samir's going to need diamonds or a 6.
You too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absolutely nothing Samir can do there except move
No.
in.
Yeah, it's a completely standard spot.
All day the worst.
Both hands.
Not for Earl Clinton.
But the way things have been going,
Uh,
we could see a queen here.
Yeah,
Just chop it.
Queen would be. You can see Vamshi's actually odds have dropped to 52%. Samir's odds have gone down too, but that's because there's now a strong possibility of a chop.
Maybe not strong enough.
Yeah, Samir doesn't look like he's feeling it.
An 8 would be.
An 8 would do the job too. And unfortunately for Samir, he doesn't hit any of his outs in the river to chop or to win. It's been an amazing performance from Samir. He came back on day 3 with 50,000.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, which
There was
was
guys coming back with 50,000 in day 2 thinking
Yeah,
that they were
yeah,
out of it.
there were 50,000, I believe, was the average stack going into day 2, and he came into day 3 with that stack. He was the 3rd or 4th shortest stack in the field of 112 that were left. He played a blinder yesterday. He just hung in there grim. He never got above 30 big blinds, but got all the way to
Well,
the
you
final
know,
table.
when he gets over the disappointment, he can look back at that and be proud. And also the fact that he hasn't put a foot wrong all day.
Yeah.
If he has, he fooled me.
Yeah, no, I think Samir can be really proud. He takes away €25,000, which will help ease the pain as well.
especially if you put it under the pillow.
Yeah, and I believe
I
this,
swear by that one.
I think this is only Samir's second Irish Open, and he came 16th the last time he played a few years ago. So
Oh, really?
yeah, this has been a very good tournament for him. I'm pretty sure we'll see him back next year.
The Irish Open's becoming a bit like the Grand National, you know. We've had Chris Dowling, I mean, who's perennially up there with a big stack, and Andy Black gave it a good spin. We've had our our second place finisher from last year here.
Yeah, Michael Connaughton, amazing achievement by him going back to back in terms of final tables.
Well, because it's like 802 runners and maybe 1135.
And Vamshi suddenly finds the situation has turned around for him.
I mean, it's amazing what's happened here, isn't it?
Yeah. So now we basically have Chris Dowling. Well, actually, Mihail has a significant chip lead, but Chris has also a big chip stack. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Vamshi in third, and then the two former chip leaders, Griffin and Anthony, are now the two short stacks. And the other thing about when you're a short stack, it can happen very fast, shorthanded, because the blinds are racing around so much quicker. You're not getting 9 hands in orbit anymore; you're getting 5 hands in orbit.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Shape up or ship out comes into it very quickly.
So,
But double up and get right back into it, come into it fairly quickly as well.
Chris has the two short stacks behind him. Oh no, sorry, Vamshi's also behind him, I think. No, sorry, Vamshi is the other side. Yeah, so Chris has the two shorter stacks.
Have another shot.
Yeah. I thought they'd change seats. Yeah, so he has Mihail, who is a big stack, and Griffin, who has a stack that's looking to get it in soon. Mihail has a really bad hand in the small blind. So I could see him do one of two things. He can just raise and try and take it down, or he could just limp and hope he gets to see it flop. I think Griffin is probably moving over the top all in here.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, Griffin's moved all in, as expected. Mihail can't call now.
What
Although, I should never say that about Mihail. I guess he can always call. But he shouldn't call here.
40. What option I have? You have to put in the 60 anyway. 60 and then you can call for 2.8. Yeah. No, 40 more. It's 240. It's 240.
There seems to be some confusion over what happened here. Whether
Yeah, I didn't know if he'd limped or raised.
yeah, I think that's what the confusion is, whether he limped or raised.
And obviously what it was somewhere in the middle.
Oh, it looks
What
yeah,
option I
you're right. Porry's right there. He threw in some chips, more than a call, but not enough to raise. So I guess the 50% rule is coming into play here.
Absolutely no idea what his intention was, but I'd assume.
Yeah.
I'd take a guess at a limp.
Yeah,
He tends to be more aggressive with his calling than his
that's true.
than his raising, which
So now tournament director Nico O'Hara is over. He has to rule on whether this is a raise or a call.
Two of these and two of them. Now decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, so now he's been told he has to raise, so he's putting the right amount to raise, and he's full to the shove. And Griffin's very ready to pick
Oh,
those extra chips.
excellent result for
Yeah.
Griffin.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like nothing, but I can assure you it's not. Like,
Anytime you've moved all in with a deuce in your hand, you're very much rooting for the fold.
yeah, and then you get the raise before you did. The tournament director seems to be.
Yeah.
Tells the guy that he's got to put in double D, man. Still not sure what his intention was.
No, it wasn't clear at all. So now we have the two shortest stacks in the blinds. It'll be interesting if this gets folded around to them, what Griffin does. I don't think he'll be sticking to his previous strategy of limping.
No, I think that one might have gone out.
Yeah. But I think Chris is going to raise here and hope that nobody has a hand to reshove.
Well, he could quite happily stick them both in.
Yeah, but he has to get through. He has to get through Mihail first. So
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I think if Chris was on the button here, he would definitely
Yeah.
shove into those two guys. But with Mihail between him and the two blinds, Griffin will be reshoving a pretty wide range here, and I think pocket fives is strong enough.
I think so.
So I think he's going to be putting it in here. He has gone all in. Chris now has a horrible hand to call in all in with, but he's probably getting a very good price. Yeah, he's getting 6-4 basically on his money. But Ace-5 is such a bad hand, I think he probably will find the fold.
And the fact that it's Griffin, you know,
Yeah, he just wants
under
to double.
under the don't feed the bears rule.
Yeah. The last player he wants to double up, I think. Now, the only counterpoint to that is that he knows that Griffin will shove hands like King Queen, King Jack,